tell me, what is networking? Shout out what you think networking is. Meeting new businesses. Anything else?
Gaining trust.
Gaining trust, like that one. Good. Yeah. Anything else? A lot of people. Yes.
Communication, making an impression.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good. Yeah. Anything else?
Seeking advice.
Okay. A lot of people think that networking is about getting a new client or getting a new piece of work. Networking is actually about chatting. It's simply that. It's about talking to people. It's about getting to know people and developing a relationship with those people. And that's all it is. That is the essence of networking. It's not about getting a new client or getting a piece of work. It's simply about developing relationships with people. So when you go to a networking event, don't go with the mentalities, I've got to get a client, I've got to get a client. Go with the mentality of, I'm just going to go for a chat. I'm just going to talk to people. I'm going to get to know people. And I'm going to develop relationships with people. Because the work will then follow. People will buy from you once they get to know you. No one is going to come to me and buy 10 coaching sessions if they've never met me. What I want to do is I want to talk to me, they want to get to know me. If they like me, they'll come and talk to me about work. This morning I was at a networking event and the subject matter was not of interest to me at all. I decided I'm just going to go and chat to people. Meet a couple of people that maybe I've not met before and meet some people that I've seen before and reignite that relationship. Other times you might go for a very specific reason. You might go because you want to meet up with a particular person. Earlier in the week I went to a networking event because I wanted to see one particular person and I knew he was going to be there. And the reason was because I knew that he and somebody else I knew could link up together and do business together. So I just went along to that meeting. I went through the networking process of that meeting, but really it was to meet one particular person again and link him up with somebody else. Listen to what people say and try and remember their name. Now this is good networking practice because the next time you meet that person, you can then actually greet them by name. So if I can't see your badge, what's your name?
John.
John. That's easy to remember. So if I meet John, and I go up to John and talk to John, and he tells me his name, and I'm not actually listening to what he's saying to me, then I'm not going to remember him the next time. One of the methods of I use to remember somebody's name is I actually say their name 3 times in the first sentence that I use. So if John comes up to me and says, hello, I'm John, I'll say, hi John, nice to meet you John. What do you do, John? Or where are you from, John? Another reason for trying to remember somebody's name like that is because if somebody else joins you, you can then introduce that person. How embarrassing is it if you've been introduced to that person, you've forgotten their name, somebody else comes up and says, can you introduce me? The answer is no. So it's useful to remember people's name. And what I would do, if I met John, I would focus on his face and I would say his name audibly out loud 3 times. And then I would use his name throughout the conversation so that I've cemented the name and the face in my head. Then if somebody else comes up, I can introduce the 2. You then become the most important person in that group because you are connecting other people. Even though you've only just met them, you're connecting those people. Lots of events I've been to where people have been shaking my hand and going like this, looking at, see who else is around. Now, there's one particular chap who does this on a regular basis to me. I don't know why I speak to him actually, but he's I'm 5'8", he's 6'4", so he doesn't actually have to do that. He just looks over my head. And I can see that he's looking at other people. So do try and listen to what people say. It's very important because you can pick up useful things that somebody is saying when you're listening to them. A couple of years ago, I went to a networking event and a lady came up to me and she said, hello, what do you do? I started talking to her. She interrupted me almost immediately, and 20 minutes later she said, thanks very much, I think we can do business, and she walked off. Obviously I didn't make a good impression, but she didn't know my name, she didn't know what my company did, she didn't know my company name, so I don't know how we could have done business with each other. Another method that I use to get away from business, because business is actually not that sexy to talk about, is it? I mean, it's functional, it's there, it's stuff, it works. However, personal stuff is much more interesting to talk about. So business, you can move the business speak away. I will often deliberately move the business speak away, and I'll talk about personal stuff if I can find a connection with an individual. I went to one event, and an Irish chap was at this event, and he said to me that he wasn't connecting with me at all. He just didn't seem to be interested at all. He then said, I'm often the only Irish person here. No one else has Irish connections. And I said to him, oh, well, if it helps, my mother was born in Cork and my father was born in Belfast. And that's true as well. And instantly, his attitude changed towards me. And we then started to connect, simply because I found a personal connection. If you can introduce something that is memorable, that is personal into the conversation, try and do that. Who can tell me what an arctophile is? Can anyone tell me what an arctophile is? No? An arctophile is a person who collects teddy bears. My wife Christine is an arctophile, and she's collected teddy bears since she was born. Christine now has a collection of 800 teddy bears. That's half of them. 800 teddy bears. Now, if I can get that into a conversation, people might walk away and they might not remember my name, but they will remember me as the bloke with the wife who's got 800 teddy bears. That's the other half. They have their own room in our house, and we have no children. There's no space for children, as you can see from that. But we have no children. So she has 800 teddy bears, and they are grown. Not the individual ones, but the collection is grown. But if you can get a personal connection with someone, because you are getting to know people, because you are developing a relationship, you're not talking just business, you're not doing your sales pitch, you will get a personal connection if you can find something to link you together. Now that's Christine's biggest teddy bear. That's one of our sofas, and he's called Compton. All of those other teddy bears you saw have names, and she knows all of them. You will all go away now and you will tell somebody else. I met a bloke tonight whose wife collects teddy bears. She's got 800 of them, and one of them's the size of a person. So if you can find a personal connection with somebody, it's useful to do. The reason for getting a personal connection, the reason for developing a relationship is because people will buy from you if they like you. If they don't like you, they won't buy from you. And that's a simple fact. If you've all been to restaurants, you've all had terrible service, you've all walked out and you said, I'm never going there again. If you don't like somebody, you will not buy from them. You don't have to have the best product in the world. You could have something that's not quite as good as somebody else. But if you've got a good relationship with that person, if you've developed that relationship, people will buy from you. You could also be the most expensive service or product in the world. For those of people who don't know, this is called Updown Court. It's in Windlesham, and it's on the market for £73 million, the most expensive house in the world. You could have the most expensive product or service, and people will buy it from you if you've got a relationship with them, if you've networked with them, if you haven't just tried to sell them the products. Can anyone tell me who that is? Shout it out. That one? Right. You don't need to see the whole logo. You don't need to see the whole word. You don't need to see the strapline. You know who those people are. The reason is because every single time you see them, it is exactly the same. That's branding. And branding is a personal thing as well as a business thing. When I go and do lectures or talks like this, I always wear a black shirt. It is part of my branding. It is part of what I do. It's part of my website. Anytime you see a picture of me or me talking, it will be like this. And branding is hugely important. You didn't need to see all the peripheral stuff. You knew who those were. And that's very important when you're personally branding online and in person at a networking event. If you're different every time you go to a networking event, people don't know what to expect and they will avoid you. If you're the same, you smile, you say hello, you remember people's names, you greet them, they will connect with you. They'll develop a relationship with you and they'll get to know you.